There's a lot of training about how we generate a lead. There's even a lot of training about how we deal with objections, like fees and marketing. And we talk a little bit about what actually happens when it comes to negotiation. But at the end of the day, how do you actually sell a house? Now, this is one of the great things that like a lot of agents are a bit like, well, Josh, that's pretty easy. We take some photos, we get some copy written, we shoot a video, we put it up on the major real estate portals, and then we wait for the inquiry. We actually deal with buyers. We even call people back after an open house. Hopefully we get an offer, or if we're going to auction, we turn up there on auction day and we get the auctioneer just to take the bids. And that's pretty much how we do it. Well, the foundational idea here is to really get clear about what it really does take to actually sell a house. And beyond that, there's like lots of different ways to do it, but I actually think about a very clear structured process. The first phase is what we got to call off market. What do we do to get the property ready? How do we introduce the right buyers in the buyer pool that we already know? What conversations could we do to generate a ton of leads around this listing before we even launch it? About calling back past clients, market appraisals who own an asset of a similar type, or calling back past market appraisals and past clients who own an asset in the price range before to identify people that could be buyers, sellers. So we're already trying to generate leads before we've even launched that listing. Once we go from that off-market phase, what do we got to do in the week of launch? In launch week, for example, we launch the property on a Tuesday for a midweek open in first week only on a Wednesday or Thursday. And the benefit of having that midweek open is that now all of a sudden we can actually get buyers coming back for a second look by the time we get to our first weekend of open for inspections on that Saturday. That now is a strategy of what we're doing in launch week around the 10-10-20s, about the conversation around what we're doing to get more of the neighbors to that open for inspection, getting those additional buyers from the marketing combined with the buyers that we actually had already decided were going to be the buyers before we even launched the property. So off market, then into launch week, and then into being on market and actually having some rules around that. What do we expect at day 9? We should have a second appointment. Like surely you ring back a buyer and say, Hannah, you came through Jones Street. Would you like to see it again? And if she says yes, get her back there. Get 2 buyers there at the same time. Get Hannah to want to make an offer so that by day 14, you've actually got an offer ready to go. And if that doesn't happen, then you then move into what we've got to call the week of the auction. So what are we doing to make that decision? Are we going to be selling on the day? Are we going to be selling prior? Or is this going to be a post-auction strategy? May we make a decision to actually push the auction date out? Do we bring the auction date forward, or are we running it on that particular day? That then moves us then into what we got to call the auction day itself. So what are we doing in and around the auction day to actually get buyers there? How do we deal with a one-bidder auction? What do we do with a multi-bidder auction? What do we do with a no-bidder auction? And then what do we do in the post-auction sales process? So if it doesn't sell at auction, do we have it open for inspection later that day? Do we have a fixed for sale price later that day? What are we doing to try to drive that momentum to then go to get it sold? Now, what you got to think about is that you've just seen a layout of a strategy: off market, launch week, on market, week of auction, auction day, post-auction sales process. And sitting inside of that is a series of like little tactics or checklists of things that great agents actually do to really make sure they go to land it. So if you're still in a position that ultimately you get some photos, you chuck it online, you wait for what's actually happening with a buyer, good luck in actually selling in these environments. Because what great agents do is they get really clear strategies and specific tactics and specific measurement so they can course correct to make sure they sell their properties in 28 days or less. And this is a really important foundational conversation. Every single time a set of market conditions change, like rapid amounts of supply or rapid decreases in demand, that means that you've got to literally alter or move a few little things in terms of your sales process to make sure that you actually put the ball down on getting that particular property sold. That's what selling is about, getting a strategy together on how you make sure that you can get a property sold as unconditionally as possible. And that's ultimately why we've loved auction as an example, because nationally that allows an unconditional sale. But ultimately it's about really making sure that we can give our owners certainty about the offer that's on the table today to know that if they accept it, everything's done and they can move on with the next stage of their life. Get good at selling. Get good at mapping out your customer experience around what actually happens from the moment you list a property and to the moment you get that sold sticker on the board. It really matters, and you've got to make sure that you course correct to ensure that sold sticker happens in 28 days or less.